Are you guys gonna watch that movie with Emma Stone?
Hello and welcome back to your mom's favorite movie review podcast, Popcorn and Beers, where some use tomatoes and others use thumbs. We use the stuff that gets you drunk. What are you drinking over there today, Josh, to review your movies?
This is one I haven't had in a while. The Dead Guy Ale by Rogue. It's Oregon time.
Dead Guy, our Rogue Rail. All right, got it. So, I'm just kidding. The Dead Guy by Rogue Brewery. This is Coors, again, because I still have a bunch in my refrigerator because people didn't drink them. So, that's where we're at. This week we had two Butter on Tops because we got mixed up. This time England actually got a movie before the United States, which was great for me and not so great for you guys in the comments section. So I'm going to do my best to not spoil it for you, but that's what you get for getting Poor Things before we get it over here, because I don't get to see Poor Things till the 20th of January. Now, we did a little bit of talking on what the premise of that movie is and some of the dialogue behind that movie. Did that make you guys want to see the movie more or less?
A lot less.
A lot less? Okay.
A lot less.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm still going to see it. I'm sure it's going to be an acting symphony or whatever you want to call it.
Tour de force.
I always like weird stuff. If it's a weird premise or a weird setting, that's, one of my types. Mm-hmm. However, I'm one of the guys, one of the humans that thinks, like, if you're going to have a sex scene, let's just infer the sex scene and get it over with. Let's move on, find the plot. But it seems like this is going to be a very
sheets,
sexual
throw
movie.
the head back and you're good. You got what happened.
Yeah, I don't need to see like nipple silhouettes and stuff like long with the saxophone in the background, like all of Steven Seagal's movies.
A little bit of Kenny G.
Yeah.
Josh just wants the Tarantino shot, just the toes curling, and he's like, "Oh, I know what happened."
Yeah, he's good at that.
He's very good at that. I wonder why. Anyway, let's not guess. Let's not hypothesize on why he's so good at that. So this week, I watched Wonka as our Butter on Top. I apologize to the staff as I was not reading the messages properly. I thought we were just talking about the new Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali movie, Ethan Hawke movie. I didn't realize that we had switched or navigated that to our Butter on Top. So there I was with my tickets to go see Wonka this week. And I was the only one, much like the orange bouncing cat from Winnie the Pooh. So Wonka immediately gives me Annie vibes. There is a lot of Annie vibes to this movie. It opens with a song, but one thing I will say is, you know what? They didn't murder me with the songs this time. It wasn't like death by song, death by musical. There was a few times where I was like, okay, I don't necessarily need a song here. Right, let's just go through. Let's just do dialogue. We're good. We can just talk through it. Keegan-Michael Key was funny, a bit overacted, but I think that's kind of his style. Is Keegan-Michael Key? Yeah. If you get the chance, watch College Friends on Netflix because I really loved him in College Friends, and he's not too over the top in that TV show. But outside of the Annie vibes, you get a lot of there's a lot of dialogue right now on people taking advantage of others, or the more fortunate taking advantage of the less fortunate, right? What is the key phrase here? The greedy always beat the needy is one of the phrases that are in this movie quite frequently. They say that phrase. And then in the end, of course, Wonka wins, which you all know because you've seen the sequel to the prequel with Gene Wilder. Now, I don't know necessarily that I would have cast Hugh Grant as the sassy Oompa Loompa, but the choices we make are the choices we make as directors and casting directors.
The choices you make when you're desperate to revive your career.
You think
he was in Thor. He was in Thor Ragnarok, and he was good in that.
He was, yeah.
Sure. I mean, he was. And Dungeons and Dragons, not bad, but sure, I'll be an Oompa Loompa. I can probably do that.
Yeah. You think that this was more of a sequel to the Gene Wilder one or the Johnny Depp one?
I think it was more of a sequel to the Gene Wilder one. I don't think it had anything to do with Tim Burton's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory at all.
Good.
I think they cast that one asunder. But it lives in its own universe, kind of like the Robert Pattinson Batman. You know what I'm saying? I will say this for the movie, on the good side as well. The set design was very solid. It was good looking. They did a great job filming it. They brought the world to life in some very interesting ways. The creative choices by the director when it came to the editing, I thought was interesting. It was palatable, is what I'll say. It wasn't too over the top. Some of the CGI, like the CGI on the chocolate, I was like, it's 2023. We've got to do better than this. Like, or just use a real chocolate fountain. Like, why are we CGI in a chocolate fountain? Like, just use a real chocolate fountain. I didn't like that. The CGI chocolate was really bad. Like, it was terrible when I say it was really bad. Okay,
like
but I think they will get recognized for set design and costume design. I thought the costume design was very good. I thought Keegan-Michael Key was good. I thought the villains in this story were just okay. They weren't great. They weren't bad. There's a funny scene where there's one of the villains. There's multiple villains in this film. One of the villains, every time he hears the word "poor," he gags. And he said it again. Like, and that was making me laugh because I kind of think that is how they think of anyone that makes less than $300,000-$400,000 a year. They're like, how do you survive? How's life like? Do you even put fuel in your vehicle? But that character was pretty funny as one of the villains. Outside of this, I did give it. I wrestled with it. You get a cameo from Rowan Atkinson, which was funny. Mr. Bean shows up.
Yeah.
Overall, I wrestled between a pop 2 and a pop 1 because I did think it was decent. I'm a little exhausted of Timothée Chalamet, but he's getting the roles for a reason. Obviously, critically, and the directors that are casting him really like to work with him. So I give it a popcorn 1 with, hey, I might order a second here later, right? It was a decent movie.
Refill. A little top
All
off.
right, moving on to the butter on top that was picked without me really realizing it was picked, which was Leave the World Behind, with a cast of characters that you've heard of before within your life. You had Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, and Ethan Hawke. I thought Ethan Hawke was not in it enough because I thought his scenes were great. But Jordan, why don't you give us your review first?
I thought I had a feel for what this movie was kind of going to be about. Post-apocalyptic thriller, nerve burner, but that opening threw me. Like the opening sequence, and then the song and the animations going on behind the credits. I was like, what is going on here? It was really strange. It set the movie up for a weird tone, which it sustained throughout the whole movie. And I kept from the beginning. I'm like, is this going to be a role that makes me hate Julia Roberts? Is such a thing possible? But I mean, yeah, she's just a Karen and just has these microaggressions, and she's just kind of hysterical the whole movie, which when it gets to a certain point, it makes sense, but she's like right off the bat, she's just kind of horrible. Super annoying. Just some funny observations from watching this movie. There's a lot of nonsense, as you stated in pre-production. There's just a lot of nonsense. Like that whole, what's that song called? Too Close scene where they're dancing and then they like get kind of like intimate. It's like, what?
That felt so forced from both actors.
That was strange.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, it felt forced. It felt like a very forced. Like the director's like, "Oh, we need to show that situations like this can bring an unlikely two people that would never coexist in a relationship like this together." And I was like, "This is just weird. It's forced. They could have just been normal."
It made no sense.
But you have a wife. And I have a
husband. I mean, you could. It was, the scene was forced. It was not pulled off. Whatever they were trying to do didn't get pulled off, that scene. But I mean, there's symbolism in it, just like the ending, just like all these. There's a lot you can draw from that scene. It's just didn't need to be there. It wasn't awesome.
Well, it also like that.
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. before I question you and your existence and that black people could afford a house like this, which is what she does.
Okay.
And now all of a sudden, hey, I'm thinking about boning you. And I was
But
like, what?
Well, she got
What
drunk
just
and they had a conversation. That's all it takes. Because Ethan Hawke is so lame.
just another funny observation. I'm watching the movie. I watch everything with captions, as I'm sure a lot of us do. Um, and he's walking on the carpet. He goes to the neighbor's house, Mahershala Ali. He's walking through the house and he steps on the wet carpet. And it says, instead of like wet footsteps, it said wet footfalls.
Oh, mine said squelching. Mine said water
Squelching?
squelching. Yeah, water squelching. It was what my subtitle said.
Squelch.
Interesting artistic choice that they took there. Footfalls. I love the thing where it's always in movies and even just real life. How if there's like an animal like all the deer outside and they're way far away and they're outside and you still have to go like you start whispering like they can like they're right next like they can hear you like we don't want to startle them even though
Like they understand English.
yeah or even just like they're like a mile away. You're
Yeah.
like, look, we don't want to frighten them.
What happens if she just jumps in the pool?
Yeah,
like what happens?
yeah.
I'm very
See a
curious.
bunch
Like,
of deer just like treading water.
yeah. Staring at her.
That's gonna be our first T-shirt we make.
You
And
adopted.
also,
You adopted the water. I was born into it.
I jumped into it.
the just the gathering of the deer to have this intense stare down and then they just go away. It's just there's no real explanation for. I mean, I get all the migratory patterns and all that whatnot, but like they just gained up. It was like a what's that one movie called where they dance and sing and there's gangs. That
Oh, West Side Story?
West Side Story. Yeah, I think a West Side Story moment with deer.
Well, like it reminded me of like you see those videos once in a while where it's like the deer grabbed a hold of the hiker or whatever, and he led him to his injured. Like the deer were stuck in tar pits, so the other deer went for help. So I think they were trying to simulate. That was their excuse. Like in these crazy times, the animals are going to the humans and asking for help. Like, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that was just an excuse to have a really creepy scene and to be a red herring, basically.
I don't know, man. So it's funny hearing your guys' perceptions of the scene because I immediately burst into laughter when Julia Roberts enters the scene with the deer because it reminded me of Sandra Bullock in The Proposal. Dancing to Little John from the window to the wall. Yes, that's what Julia Roberts. I immediately saw Sandra Bullock dancing from the windows to the wall when she came running into the deer scene, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, a lot of odd moments, a lot of oddly shot scenes. Like when the white family is getting in the car and like, oh, we got to go to my sister's house, and they head out. There's Mahershala Ali and his daughter are talking, and it's just like filmed from like the top of their head with a lot of foreground, and there's like you're like looking like I'm looking in the back for something to be happening in the background. Like, is there more deer? Like, oh my god. And it's just there's no reason for it. It's just shot like weird cut-offs of their head. Yeah.
That's true. And it's funny that I didn't catch that what you're talking about, but I know it now. But I was gonna say how just great the camera work was. Like they used some pretty solid drone camera work throughout.
Yeah.
And the tilting of the frame and like soundtrack and camera work was top notch, except for that scene you're talking about.
There's a lot of like artistic, reaches that they go for, and a lot of them look great. But that was when I was like, "What is it? What's happening here?" Like I was really distracted. I can't recall what the dialogue was because I was like, "What's going on in the background?"
I think it was something like, "I don't trust these white folk."
Well, we don't trust you either.
Yeah. Tesla's contributing to the collapse of society. That tracks.
Shots fired at Tesla. That was a very clear shot at Elon Musk by whoever was directing this. Like, very clear shots.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool though how like escaping that scene turned into like Battletoads level 3 for the NES.
You liked that because literally all I said in that scene was, "Hey, I figured it out. I figured out how to get out of this. Pull off the road. I win."
Yeah.
They're clearly not driving off the road.
Of course. I just thought it reminded me of the video game that was really hard where you had to dodge the walls and you're on the motorbike.
I'm with you, but in that scene, all I thought to myself was, the cars are all very clearly in 2 straight lines. Very clearly. Like, there's none off to the side. Very clearly in 2 straight lines. Very clearly there's no one in there. You're in an SUV into the dirt, and the panic is over.
No. These are Teslas.
They're not heat-seeking missiles. They're not like, there's people in them cars. Like, it was just driving straight.
I'm going to give this a popcorn in 1. I'm going to give it a high popcorn in 1. You know,
high popcorn.
Yeah.
Josh, I'm going to go real quick. Opening with "I Hate Bleeping People" from Julia Roberts and America's Sweetheart was hilarious. Mm-hmm. All right, like that was funny. Like, look at all these people with hope. They suck. that was funny. And then the theme song, of course, was good. The way it opened out. So here's my review. Is this a movie about how friends shape society? Is this a movie about racial allegories? Is this a movie about how America is currently divided? It might be. Is this a movie about the perception of black people in America? Is this the perception of white people in America? Nope, we're back. It is a movie about a young woman and her struggle in a post-apocalyptic world to find what happens in the season finale of Friends and all the struggles she goes through. A sick brother, a mother that's slightly racist, maybe not so subtly racist, a couple that owns a house that has nowhere else to go, a father that's totally aloof and doesn't understand Spanish. But throughout all this adversity, she finds a way to figure out how to use a DVD player that hasn't been around in her entire lifetime. And somehow she finds a DVD box set of Friends, and she is able to complete the entire Friends season finale.
Series, yeah. Okay, that's a nice way to put things.
The flamingos was kind of funny, much like the deer. Flamingos kind of landing there. They're in New York, everyone. Like, I don't know. Like, so instead of flying south because, like, the global world access is off, like, I didn't know that they had satellites as well. Like, that really freaked me out, that they've been using our satellites for their migration patterns. That was different.
Oh, really?
That was a very interesting take. Because I was like, what wiped out the migration patterns? They don't use GPS, to my knowledge. So why, like, the birds were affected by the crashing of the computers? How?
It's weird.
Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like the animals would be like, well, we're just going to keep flying to the countries we've always flown to. But nope, satellites affected animals. That was weird to me. With the Tesla scene, I wrote, just get off the road. They're playing with a lot of themes here. They really want you to think about the state of the country. They want you to think about the state of the world. There's some geopolitical themes here. There is some false propaganda. There's some real propaganda themes that they're playing with here. I find it interesting that this movie was produced or executive produced by the Obamas. Thought that was interesting.
Really?
It says a lot. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists are going to have a lot to say about this movie, and they're going to dive too deep. At the end of the day, I thought it was a decently made movie with a good cast. I thought it was kind of fun. I found multiple characters annoying at multiple times, which I think makes for a decent movie. And Ethan, don't worry about what you did on the roadside, because I might have left too. That would have been kind of jarring. So don't worry about it. You live your best life, Ethan Hawke. For me, I give it a pop and 1.
That's a hot take there, bud. That's, I think, the biggest sin of the movie is leaving that poor woman on the road.
Well, now everyone knows.
My only justification for it was...
Now everyone knows what he left on the side of the road.
Yeah, okay, so I gave it away, sorry. But the only justification he would have that you could possibly glean is, I got kids I got to worry about. However, did you notice how the family's hardly ever together? Like, they're just wandering off in the woods while mom's getting drunk. And I forgot where Ethan Hawke was even going. And he just comes back in the night, all sweaty.
I do need to know, though.
Weird.
I do need to know what kind of bug causes that illness, because I do not want to be around that bug. Whatever bug causes that illness, keep that bug away from my ankles, please.
I liked this movie. I liked how it grabbed me pretty quick. The whole time, I think it's safe to say you'll most likely be wondering what's going on. Much like you would do with a Shyamalama Ding Dong movie. Like, you need to know at the end, like, what's happening? And correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't officially find out what's happening. We just know the symptoms, right?
No, but we do find out how Friends ended.
Yeah. I think that ending was beautiful. I think it fits the title of the movie. And I think if that's the ultimate lesson throughout the movie, just about every part of it was, how do you take yourself out of this moment? Let's go swimming. Let's argue about race. Let's get political. Let's worry about ourselves only. Everyone in somewhere, let's smoke some weed. Let's watch TV. It's all an escape from the right now, the reality, and leaving the world behind, right? That's the central theme of the movie, in my opinion. But they do, like you said, Fry, they jump around, dude. Like, is this a movie about race? Is this a Jordan Peele movie? Is this, like, what is happening? And then we get into politics. Oh, now there's a doom prepper, and we get to talk to them for a long time. And it's Kevin Bacon out of nowhere. Like, what?
When he just gives in after all that grandstanding. Like, he just, like, all right.
Well, okay.
You can have some medicine. It reminded me a lot of, you remember that movie Legion, where it's like starts off like a family struggling movie, then it turns into a zombie movie, then no, it's actually like heaven and hell, and now all of a sudden we're CG aliens flying in the sky, or not angels. Anyways, it didn't get that bad, but it did jump like the momentum of the movie, which wasn't necessarily bad, because that keeps you guessing too, I guess. I don't know. It was interesting dialogues throughout. Good, like I said before, good camera, great soundtrack, the tensity that they build, and then they have a long pause of no sound whatsoever. They would be arguing towards the end of the movie, and there's machine gun fire in the background, and no one's paying attention to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Really, I want to see it again someday soon, and see if there's how many more warnings there are that are getting ignored, right? I guess that's about it. I liked what I think is the message. Julia Roberts, Julia Roberts was good at being a Karen. The young girl was really good at being a Karen. I didn't like either one of them. Right?
Yeah.
And then the Gen Z kid who was just so Gen Z. Not even Gen Z. What is it now? Alpha? I don't know. Young kid.
Yeah, Alpha is the new one.
The worst.
Yeah.
But I liked. I laughed the hardest that there's a knock at the door. Julia Roberts is like, "Why don't you get a bat?" And Ethan Hawke says, "Why would I have a bat?" And then he reaches for a weapon, and it's like a vase. You know, like he tries to hit someone with art. So
I thought it was like wood. I thought it was like an artistic piece of wood.
Yeah. It was some bedazzled thing instead of a bat. Anyway, I give it a popcorn in 1. Yeah.
All right, across the board, poppin' 1. So our drunk classic this week was mine, and I chose True Lies. I wanted to bring us back to a little bit of action. I felt like we had deviated from the action genre quite a bit since Red Dawn. So I wanted to pull us back in on our drunk classic. So this one is Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Arnold, Bill Paxton. Is that the scoreboard for us?
Yes, and I don't believe Jordan's seen it, has he?
True Lies, I have seen it, yeah.
Oh, thwarted
Have you really, though?
1 point behind
From
me.
front to back? I mean, what, do you want to give me a half point? But no, I've seen every bit of this movie, but not in one sitting.
So Jamie Lee Curtis is also here. I'm going to tell you right now, I enjoyed it again. I love, like, in the 80s when we just thought everyone from the Persian Gulf was going to come and rob us and stuff in all of our movies. That was funny. They made this guy super crazy. very interesting where we went in real world from True Lies. Like, there's some connection points there if you pay attention. And I just found it fascinating, as if what is this, Tom Arnold, as if the original terrorist organizations weren't terrorist enough. They had to invent one that was a little bit more hardcore. And I was like, that was a good line from Tom Arnold. I put in here, I forgot he was in it. Tia Carrere, she had a moment, huh? Like, she was in some things for a moment. Wayne's World, this one. She's in a Chris Farley movie. I can't remember which one. But I was looking through her filmography, and I was like, she had a little run there.
Yeah,
for
I
a
wouldn't
little
be surprised
while.
if she was a Bond girl at some point.
Yeah, and she was fun in this movie as well. There some siphon filter vibes to this movie, especially the way it enters with him coming up through the ice.
Good
Lots of
callback.
cool things that I think Mission Impossible stole from this movie, from True Lies. I think that the flamethrower scene, when I was watching that, I was like, ooh, a little bit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Maybe Tarantino drew some inspiration, because it's almost exactly the same as when Leo takes the flamethrower out in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Of course, Live Free or Die Hard, the son jumping onto the jet that Bruce Willis is flying. We get a little bit of that at the very end. We see that Jamie Lee Curtis was amazing, and she still is amazing in this movie. She's hilarious, just wanting to be removed from the monotony of her everyday life, right? So she falls for Bill Paxton's scam, his little scheme. And the way he describes her is just not PC at all, right? Got an ass like a 10-year-old boy. What?
Whoa! Right? I think I was about 10 when I saw this movie the first time too. What?
It was what? Exactly.
Yeah,
why
that's
is
like that one Biggie Smalls line.
And
what do
you know what? You can't have a late 80s, early 90s action movie without a horse chasing a motorcycle. I just don't think you can. I think you need to give me a horse and a motorcycle every time. In fact, I want to see it again.
Horsepower, brother.
Yeah.
through a hotel lobby, and it's just normal. It's just a normal thing in New York, I guess. Just like people do this all the time. The holding the man in the restroom, just holding his newspaper the entire, like, he never puts the newspaper down the entire time the fight scene is going on inside the restroom. He's just holding the newspaper. And I was like, when is he going to put that newspaper down? And then he kind of waddles out of the restroom, and Arnold Schwarzenegger apologizes to him. For me, in the grand scheme of action movies and what this movie has birthed, I think it is a popcorn and two for me. I think it's funny. I think it's got a lot of action in it. It's got your Arnold one-liners. What does he say when he fires the missile?
I forgot.
Like, have a nice flight or something like that as he fires the missile.
Everybody chew.
So for me, taking all that into consideration, I'm going to give that a pop 2. Josh, what did you think?
2? I go popping 1,
so.
but I understand you're popping 2. It is a great movie. Remember when James Cameron just made bangers?
Over and over again.
I miss those days.
Summer bangers.
Yeah, now he just wants to make movies so he can get in a submarine. Like, he wants to play in his submarine, so he's just pumping them out. Anyway. This was a good movie. It's a well-made action flick with so many elements that, I mean, it's for the whole family. Even your wife will love it. You know what I mean? It was funny. Tom Arnold did well, but he took me out of the movie. I'm not a fan of that man, but he was who he was. He had a moment too. It was a big moment, and then there's a lot of moments afterwards involving cocaine. But funny. Arnold was. I think it was just he's talking to Cameron like, I think I want to be like James Bond, So they just made a Bond film basically. But they threw in Jamie Lee Curtis as the Bond. Well, she's not even the Bond woman. It's Tia. Yeah. But Jamie Lee Curtis is the star of the show. I have always and will always remember her dancing. And that was probably the first thong butt I've ever seen in my life.
Thong butt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she pulled. I mean, how do you be like really sexy and then immediately go to really funny and then immediately back to sexy? Great actor. Good movie. Popcorn 1.
telephone to the head in that scene.
Telephone to the head. I'm your husband. It's me.
It is nice. It is nice direction though. Throughout after that scene, he still has her lipstick all over his face, like through the next couple.
I like the truth serum scene is great too. Truth serum scene. Yeah, that's good.
I give it
guys.
I give it a popcorn and 1 as well. It's one of those movies where I've seen every section of it, kind of beginning, middle, and end at different times.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, it's weird. Why haven't I sat and watched this whole movie? And then I was like, wait, this is a really long movie, which, it tracks because it's, James Cameron. He's very overindulgent. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
But then Arnold and Jamie Lee Curtis have great chemistry, I thought. And you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think so on the outside, But good movie. They work well together. A lot of entertaining stuff going on, funny scenes, action scenes. Like you guys said, there's something for everybody. So yeah.
Oh, speaking of you seeing it in sections, that reminded me. I watched this movie the worst way possible. It was like a bunch of 3-minute clips of True Lies in sequential order on YouTube. It's the worst. Never do that, even if it's free.
15-minute sections.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh god. All right. So outside of that, Josh, what were you watching?
Oh, me? I only watched one. It was Lucy. Once again, watching flicks with my father. I love Lucy. I do love Lucy. I give Lucy a popcorn and 1. It's very much worth watching. It's not necessarily a rewatch, even though this was a rewatch for me. They do a lot. They do a big reach, and they have a main character. You don't really need to know anything about her, and you never find out anything about her. She's just some girl who got the limitless pill, basically, but even more so. And I like the direction of the film. It was basically just like showing a premise based on a myth that you only use 10% of your brain, but she can use 100%. That's not true, but
like limitless.
Yeah, so that's not true. But in this movie, that is true, and she gets to 100%, and she basically becomes a sentient entity that didn't need her body anymore. She just became the Wi-Fi.
A sentity.
A scientity. Yeah,
centipede.
I like the movie, though. Good action. It was cool to see Lucy, Scarlett Johansson, be just an action character that wasn't a Black Widow that you might be used to. They do a lot of really good photography that's kind of out of nowhere, like shot, like, here's a tiger, here's a boy kissing a baby, and here's the trees, and here's the mountains, boom, boom. And it's while Morgan Freeman's talking about the universe and how we'll never quite understand it. I don't know, it's kind of like, who cares? You can watch it on mute. You know what I mean? But it's still a popcorn in 1 movie, I say. Maybe a popcorn. I don't know. ScarJo.
I don't know. Well, I watched a Jordan horror movie that he recommended. I gave it a popcorn. I watched Talk to Me. It was fine. It was interesting. It was kind of unique. It's by the same company that shot, I think it was called The Rabbit that I reviewed earlier this year. I think that was the name. So it's an Australian production company. So this is an Australian film. And it was fine. I thought they could have done a lot more with the premise than they did. I thought The Hand of the Psychic was an interesting take. Overall, it devolves into every other horror film you've ever seen. I don't know how I didn't see a woman kicked in the face, because I think, like, just out of reaction, I might accidentally kick someone that had my entire foot in their mouth in the face. Like, just out of reaction, if I woke up to that,
catch one. Gonna catch
like,
you.
I'm not saying, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, in that film, like, I think the more realistic reaction isn't to just pull your foot out of him. I think you're going to catch a foot to the face. I just don't know how there's any other way to handle that situation, because you don't know whose mouth your foot is in. Like, when you're just waking up.
Whose mouth is it?
It's a startling way to wake up. So I gave that a pop. I also watched Theater Camp, which is a big movie for the LGBTQIA+ community. And I think that it was good. I gave it a pop and one. It was interesting. There was a lot of originality in it, but also at the same time, there wasn't a lot of originality in it, if you catch my drift. There was a lot of themes that had been played with before. Good cast. You got Ben Platt. I think most people will know him from, oh God, what is happening to me right now?
Isn't he the guy from Dear Evan Hansen?
Yeah, he's in Dear Evan Hansen, but he's also in. So I think most of you would know him from Pitch Perfect or Dear Evan Hansen, but he is the magician in Pitch Perfect. He's got the magic in him. That at the very end, he is a great producer. I really like his work. I think he does a lot for the community. It also has Patty Harrison in it, and she is hilarious. She makes me laugh in everything she's in. She is the young lady from I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robbins.
I know that. I'm smarter than you.
Yeah, that's my favorite line. Like I say that line all the time and nobody gets it because not enough people have seen that show. But I always go, I know that. I'm smarter than you. I think that's one of like the funniest lines like ever, especially in how it's delivered. But I did give this one a pop one. They took a lot of talented people, put them in a movie about theater camp, and gave them something that they had to overcome. Right? Okay. So, pop one for me. Squid Games, the finale, gave it a pop. Boring, and more boring. Making me watch rock, paper, scissors to see who gets $4 million. Boring, and more boring. The whole series was irritating. All the characters were irritating. They were irredeemable. I didn't like them. And then I got to watch them. And I'm like, wow, none of these people were poor. All of these people had money. At the very end, when they show everyone's house and like only one of them's actually broke. You know, like all the rest of them have like beautiful homes, big, huge kitchens. And I'm like, you wanted me to root for these people? Like, what is this? Anyway.
No.
I gave it a pop because the Squid Game show, they preyed on the people that were in dire straits, that were in desperation. They needed that money, and that's how they preyed on them. Versus where I get to see how these people are living. I'm like, that doesn't seem so bad. It doesn't seem like you need $4.5 million. The last movie I watched, or pardon me, not the last, but I watched Fool's Paradise. So this is Charlie Day production. I think this might be Ray Liotta's last film. I think, because Ray Liotta is in it. R.I.P. Ray. It's got Ken Jeong, and really, it's a love story between Latte Pronto and his publicist, a guy that doesn't talk until the very end of the movie. Somehow works his way into becoming an actor. And really all this movie is saying is, look how stupid Hollywood is. Go ahead, Josh.
I'm sorry. I remember which movie you're talking about. I was really jazzed up to see it. And it bombed, right?
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. It was terrible. It got a popcorn, though. I gave it a pop. It was just silly. It really is. They're trying to drive home, look at how ridiculous Hollywood is. Like, and it's really like, hey, not all of this is talent. Some of it's just luck. The right person discovering you at the right time and meeting the right people. And at the end of the day, you got to keep the people that actually care about you close. That was the theme of this movie. It was done poorly. It is a popcorn. I imagine they did have to deal with the death of Ray Liotta during the filming of this, so that probably played a role in the movie not being great. Last thing I watched, I know Jordan also watched, I watched Fat Rascal. I gave this a pop one. It had some mildly entertaining moments. A lot of it wasn't funny. I've seen Stavros quite a few times on YouTube. I thought he's a pretty funny guy. The stand-up wasn't it for me. So, pop one. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, pop one for me as well. He's a total, as we mentioned in our little team chat. He's a total road comic, you know.
Yeah, smells like
yeah. It translates okay, but I'm not a fan of on these like Netflix specials when guys start doing like a lot of crowd work.
Yeah,
like it's good for little sound bites and clips for Facebook or YouTube or whatever, but when you got these Netflix specials, it just feels forced and weird. You know? Yeah. He has a very unsettling appearance, I'll say, that he comments on quite a bit. He's just got an aesthetic to him that's funny, that he owns it. He's like, I know what I look like, and, you know, I love it. I'm like, well, hey, good for him, you know? But I think you have to be familiar with him going into this, because like I tried to tell a buddy to watch this and he was like, I can't get over how kind of strange the guy looks. Like I can't get past it. It's not like in a way that it adds to the humor. It's like he's kind of creepy looking, but hey, he's not, he's a stand-up comedian. He's not trying to be a runway model, nothing like that. But it was good. I liked it. He had some funny moments, but it wasn't consistent enough. So popcorn and 1 for me as well. So next, I got to see Wish, which I believe was last week's.
Butter on top.
Butter on top. I took the little youngins to go see it in the theater, and I give it a popcorn and 1. But I think I judged this movie too soon without seeing it. I actually enjoyed it. I had really low expectations, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was definitely just Disney piling on the Disney tropes and all of that. I see that for sure, but it was just a really charming movie. It had lots of Disney callbacks. Obviously, some were good, some were just too obvious. The Peter Pan thing. The friends obviously represent the 7 dwarves. The chorus to most of the songs were really good. Everything in between the choruses of the songs was just so tacky and cheesy. I loved the scene that made me bust out laughing was they like go into the chicken coop and the chickens are having like this crazy party where they're like all singing and dancing. That caught me off guard, and that was funny. Popcorn and 1.
Popcorn and
Bobby
1.
1.
But I couldn't help but think, like, what if some guy was like, "Oh, what do you wish for?" And he was like, was kind of on the spot, hadn't had lunch yet, and he was just like, "God, I really wish I had a roast beef sandwich right now." And he's like, "That's it. That's what you get." He's like, "No, wait." So I got my Christmas movie on, and this is one that's always in my rotation every year, and I don't know why. It's a funny movie. It's Christmas with the Cranks. I watched it on Amazon Prime. It's a total popcorn movie. I think having
Jamie Lee Curtis this weekend.
Yeah. Having Jamie Lee Curtis, kind of on the forefront of my mind made me go, okay, let's pull the trigger and watch this right now. But the thing about it is, I can't stand Tim Allen. Like I don't like the Santa Claus movies at all. And I don't like him. I don't like his face.
I don't like his face. Right here, but you don't have to see his face, right?
Yeah. And this movie, it's just so much unnecessary, just bored suburbanite drama. That's like, it's all manufactured. They're just, especially Tim Allen, he's just being kind of a douche about the whole. Yeah, he's just kind of being, a jerk about a lot of these situations for no reason at all.
Maybe father, husband, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh yeah, hey man, would you mind just putting up your snowman in the yard? It's a tradition for the neighborhood loves it." And he's like, "No, we are not doing that." And they're like, "Come on, man, we'll set it up for you." Oh no, like just no reason at all. So,
Came to the snowman, left my tool belt at work.
Yeah. So the funny scenes, the umbrella scene at the beginning, that just has nothing to do with the plot, and it's a weird way to start the movie, but it's a super funny scene, and you see why they want to do that. The honey baked ham scene is classic, where she's fighting with the lady with the card, she goes flying into the little setup of boxes, and it's a great scene with Jamie Lee Curtis. But a solid popcorn movie.
It's a good movie. It's fine. It's actually funny.
Yeah, I love it. It's I gotta watch it every year for sure. Yeah, Botox. So finally, I watched another Christmas movie. This one I hadn't seen before on Amazon. This is Violent Night with David Harbour of Stranger Things and Hellboy.
Yeah.
He plays basically the role that David Harbour plays in everything he's in. This cynical, alcoholic, rough around the edges guy, but except he's Santa Claus now, and he doesn't. My favorite thing about this movie is how everyone keeps like going like, how is this happening? And he's like, well, I don't even understand it myself, honestly. Just over and over. It's pretty funny because it's like, and they don't explain how he became Santa Claus, but like they give him this backstory where he was like a Viking and he was a very brutal Viking, but somehow or some way he got cursed into being Santa Claus or something like that. I don't know. John Leguizamo is the villain. He's great. His death is epic. Super epic, inventive Santa Claus death.
So is it a year ago? It's a year ago for this film. Is a year too soon?
A year too
soon for what?
To give out spoilers.
Oh no, I'll spoil the hell out of this. Well, what do you want to know?
How does he die?
Oh, well, Santa Claus has this power where if he taps his nose, he goes flying up the chimney, like turns into dust and goes up the chimney. So he basically bear hugs John Leguizamo, taps his nose, and the powers don't transfer to John Leguizamo, so he just gets mangled through this really small chimney and just gets like splattered into the air.
Fatality. That's beautiful.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat Santa Claus. Yeah, it's a good one. There's an excellent opening sequence to this movie. The family that's in the foreground of this movie is so vomitous, but they're hilarious. Everyone played their role really well. It's super cliche for an anti-Christmas movie, but you get some Die Hard in there, some Home Alone, some very obvious Home Alone.
Christmas movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Another good part of this movie is he has his magic Santa sack where he pulls out the toys and gifts and stuff, and he's in there looking for a weapon to kill these guys to fight them, and he just keeps pulling out video game, gift card, video game, gift card. He's like, nobody asks for a baseball bat anymore.
Just virtual reality. We just want to live in our TVs now.
You just want to leave the world behind, huh?
And we're back.
He does manage to drop a holy shit. So, if you didn't see that coming, it's there. Popcorn and one. I'm gonna give us a popcorn and one. I think I would add this. I would reluctantly add this to my rotation, maybe in every other year watch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, if you want to see a movie that's almost the same, except Santa Claus is actually a villain. He's a violent killer. Super cheesy. It's just a bad movie, but it's super entertaining, and it's something you have to just experience once. It's called Santa's Sleigh with Goldberg.
I've heard of it. No, I've seen that. That was when Goldberg was like ultra popular still, right?
Yeah, with Bill Goldberg. Crazy movie, but it's an experience. It's funny.
Okay. I've actually seen that back in the days when we had video stores still. That movie came out, and I remember seeing the cover of that film like there, and I was like, Goldberg's in a movie about Santa Claus, right?
Yeah.
Like it was confusing to me, but I know exactly the movie you're talking about. Krampus is another one, another anti-Santa movie, which I actually liked. I actually enjoyed Krampus. I thought it was a good movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible, but you know what? I want to hear about a movie that you've probably watched more than once, and that's your drunk classic for this week.
Well, I think we all came to a consensus on this in one way or another on what my drunk classic is going to be.
Or did we guess it?
You guessed it, yeah. Okay. It's going to be Apocalypto. Mel Gibson. Unfortunately, it's Mel Gibson, but the guy did some pretty good work on this movie, so.
Damn good movie.
Yeah.
It is a good movie. It's a lot of fun. I remember I probably watched this a billion times in the day room when I was in tech school, because like everybody really liked it. It was easy. You could come in at any point and kind of know what's going on in this movie, right? Like, oh snap, Mayans are just crushing other tribes around them. All right, got it.
And you said, Jordan, that it's not exactly historically accurate?
Well, no, because it's Aztec and Maya.
I thought it was Maya.
Well, no, it's they kind of blended the two together.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're really the layman wouldn't see that at all, they'd be like, oh, okay. But, you know, me being a history major, I'm like, zoom, 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 you know.
Yeah,
what
the
the
Mayans
throw-off
gone.
is Cortez sails right up to them like they're the Aztecs.
Yeah. So like, wasn't the Mayan Empire collapsed by then when the conquistadors arrived?
I think
Gonna make him take out his books.
I know. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, well, you don't need any books for our Butter on Top this week, but you do need a Netflix subscription because our Butter on Top this week is going to be Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget, the long-awaited sequel to Chicken Run. Well, Jordan, where can they reach us if they want to follow along or comment or watch with us?
At Popcorn and Beer on X.
Soon to be on Instagram. I know I keep promising that, but eventually he's going to take out his Facebook and he's going to link his account to an Instagram for Popcorn and Beers so you can get us there as well. As always, we appreciate you joining us for the movies of the week and what we were watching. We will see you at the movies. You bring the popcorn and we got the beer.